Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to our webinar. We'll be running this webinar twice today. My name is Sarah Everett and I am the Managing Director and Co-founder of MediStays. I'm delighted to introduce you to Noel Henderson.
Hello, everyone.
A Specialist Care Navigator here at MediStays. And if you've joined one of our previous webinars, you will know that Noel has an incredible understanding of the NDIS, both from her professional and personal experience. So I'm really delighted to be joined by Noel today and also our technical team in the background helping to set this up. The title of today's webinar is Understanding NDIS Short-Term Accommodation Eligibility, and we know that there have been a lot of changes around STA in the last 6 months. Many of you we know from MediStays, and we really have been working hard to answer many of those questions and to support you through this time. So we thought today would be a good opportunity to just give you an update on where we're at and to run through this again. We invite you to please add any questions into the chat as we go. At the end of the session, Noel will help with those answers. And if we run out of time, we will follow up with you directly as well. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where we gather today. For Noel and I in East Melbourne, we are on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people, and we pay our respects to elders past and present and to any First Nations people here with us today. We do have a broad range of attendees joining us today, so thank you very much for coming online. Many of you are known to our team and have booked STA in the past. We're also delighted to welcome many new attendees to the webinar and support coordinators who are new to the process and keen to learn. And today, given it is our first webinar for 2025, we'll start off by giving you the basic overview of STA and the new eligibility criteria, and then we'll move on in our future webinars to really drill down to specific case studies and more detail to support you on this journey. So today the overview of the session will be STA. What is short-term accommodation? When is it used? And who is eligible? And then that last point there is specific to the new legislation. We'll also then drill down a little bit into understanding funding for short-term accommodation, and then we'll finish up with how you can use STA to best support participants that you might be caring of as informal carers. You may be a participant of the NDIS yourself, or you might be someone in the community or a support coordinator. So we'll give you some practical strategies for that as well. So Noel, thanks for joining us. It's really great to have you here today and to share your knowledge of STA and the NDIS. We know that some of these terms can be used in different ways. So if you'd just like to run us through how these definitions will be used today, just to make it clear what we're referring through during the webinar.
Absolutely, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. As Sarah has mentioned previously, I'll be talking from, I guess, professional as well as personal experience. I'm a Specialist Care Navigator with MediStays. I'm also an informal support, not support worker, I'm an informal carer of a young man who has an NDIS plan, and I'm the only informal carer, so I'm well aware of everything we may be facing if anyone here is also an informal carer. So the informal supports, they're the unpaid carers with whom the NDIS participant lives with. In my case, I'm the mother, but of course you could be the husband, the wife, brother, sister, other family member. You may be a friend and you may be providing care to an NDIS participant. And then, of course, we have our formal support workers. So they're the ones that we either, as a nominee of a participant, we either employ them ourselves, or we're using an agency to access our formal support workers. And in terms of a definition of respite, it's a short period of rest or relief. So if you're looking at the dictionary, that's what you're going to see. But if you're actually caring for someone, we might expand that and say respite is a period of time where other options are utilised in order to sustain whatever arrangements we have in place as informal carers for somebody who's on the NDIS program and who has a disability and needs to be looked after.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. That's fantastic. And we understand that there are, as we know, more than 600,000 participants on the NDIS. So such a broad range of living situations for both participants and their informal supports as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So with that information, understanding that many of you have different understanding and experience with STA, I invite you to type into the chat just a quick knowledge check of how many nights STA a participant can typically book at a time, and then we'll take a deep dive into more of the details. So just pop your answers there into the chat. And Leah, who is with us here today off screen, is just collating that information.
Overall, 14. We have 128, another 28. We have 12 to 14. 14 days max, up to 28 if approved by planner.
Great.
2 stints of 14 days. Up to 28.
Right.
So 14 and 28 are majority of the answers.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right then.
So in terms of short-term accommodation, let's start off with a definition as it is now.
As it is now, okay.
NDIS.
So STA, it is a short time away from home for an NDIS participant, such that the regular caring responsibilities of the informal supporters, the carers, so that their living can be sustained, so that the living arrangements of the participant can go smoothly and that they can be cared for, 100% of the time that they require, without having any concerns or the informal carers having to worry that they can continue what they need to do.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. And I think we often discuss this in the office about the ability for the carers in the informal support around the participant to have such peace of mind to actually have a proper respite break and not be having any concerns about the participant, and in reverse for the participant not to be worrying about their informal support.
And one of the things about that is planning, because if we can sort of know what is ahead, what our next 3 months is looking like or next 6 months is looking like, we can put some stays, in place. We can put some arrangements in place, and that might be that we know that, every 2 to 3 months, it's really wonderful for an informal support person to be able to say, I've got 3 or 4 days where I can recharge my batteries, and I can take a little bit of a break from my caring responsibilities. And we talk about sustaining a living situation. So whilst respite is about taking a break, I know from my own personal experience in a previous role, I had to travel for work. And one of the things the planner and I discussed was, how many days are you, as the informal and only carer, going to be interstate or out of the country? And, you know, okay, you're going to be away 20 days a year or whatever that might be. So let's make sure that there's enough funding available so that you can continue with your career and you can make your plans. Your son knows that he's going to be well looked after when mum goes away. So that overcame any anxiety he was having about me leaving. So it's not just about respite and sitting back and saying, oh, I've got a few days on my own, I can recharge, I can read a book. It's about making sure that your life can continue to run smoothly, and it's about sustainability, exactly as we've said, of the living situation. So whatever works for the participant and the family members, whether that's, you know, 5 days every 3 months, 1 week every 4 months, or, you know, whatever works.
Yes, yeah, fantastic. And as you say, sometimes when the break is planned, it's also that additional peace of mind that it is planned, it's coming up, that relief, you know, and respite is in place, and there's nothing more to do. Sometimes it's also at quite short notice, isn't it? If a carer is really exhausted, they just need a quick, immediate break.
A carer could be exhausted. A carer may have to have unplanned medical attention. A carer may have to travel for work, as we just said. Or other informal supports who are assisting the main support worker. Maybe it's grandma.
Yes.
Maybe it's an auntie. Maybe they have other responsibilities and they can no longer assist. So there are a number of situations where STA is a very valuable solution for everybody involved in a family situation.
Yeah, great. And how long is STA for? So sounds like our everyone on the webinar today understands this well.
We had many responses, 14 days, 28 days, 14 days at a time. I think I heard a 12-day that had come through. Well, STA, generally speaking, it's up to 28 days per calendar year. I know there's always a little bit of grey area about, is it calendar year, is it plan year, is it any other sort of time frame? We view it as calendar year. That is what's mentioned in the frequently asked questions, which were put in place once the legislation had been released in October last year. So that's the guideline that we're working towards. And just noted on that too, the frequently asked questions were updated on the 7th of February. And so as at the 7th of February, that's exactly what it says. Typically the stay is for up to 14 days at a time. If there is some overriding need that has to be extended, that can also be discussed. But in general, it is quite flexible. You can have 1 night at a time if you want. It just depends on your own situation.
Yeah, fantastic. And one of the hot questions since October last year is around eligibility, and we know that the eligibility and this particular change to the guide has really changed the way some families and participants can access STA. So just to run through now, who is clearly eligible for STA?
Clearly eligible, any NDIS participant who was living at home with informal supports. I mean, I don't even need to say at home, who is living with informal supports. They could be family, as I mentioned, husband, wife, brother, sister, they could be friends. If you are living on your own, you will not be eligible. And also if you're living in any sort of SIL housing environment. And that's basically because your informal supports are already receiving, I guess, a break in as much as they're not having to deal and, attend to your 24/7 needs, whatever they may be, or even 12 hours out of every day, or even 2 hours out of every day. So if you're not, if you're living on your own or in SIL, no, you will not be eligible.
Thanks, Noel. The other dot point there, which is one of the